Hello and welcome to Health and Beauty Hacks. I'm Mia Sines, and in this episode, you get to meet Peter Greenlaw. Now, I'm really excited about Peter because I met with him. You guys have met Udana, and I've met with him through Udana, and he taught me how to increase. Remember, we talked about the absorption rate of the shakes and how we could get it to go from like 15 to 90% absorption rate. So he's kind of like a hero in my life. So I'm really excited for you to meet this amazing researcher. And I do want to share a little bit. I normally don't read bios, but his is really important because he's got a lot going on there. So Peter is a researcher of researchers. I love that. Peter has worked with some of the top medical doctors, oncologists, molecular biologists, and geneticists in the world. Peter has written 4 books. Isn't that impressive? 4 books. Why Diets Are Failing Us, TDOS Syndrome, TDOS Solutions, and the last book, book number 4, is Your Third Brain. It sounds so exciting. Welcome, Peter. It's lovely to have you.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Would you share with the audience a little bit about, obviously being a research is something that's a huge passion. It gets under your skin and you just got to do it, right? So will you share with us a little bit about your experience that brought you into research? Because I'm sure that that's part of the story of who you are.
It's a huge part of it, actually, Mia. So let's go back down memory lane. 17 years ago, I walk in my doctor's office and he says to me, if you don't do something drastically different today, when you walk out of here, you probably got about 18 months to live. Now, let's be clear. We're not curing, treating, diagnosing any diseases. I'm just sharing my own personal story. That's all I can do. I'm not saying that would happen to anybody else. But anyway, the problem was my cholesterol was 400. My heart attack risk was 85 out of 100, and I was 40 pounds overweight. So he told me diet, exercise, and a statin for high cholesterol. And I did it diligently for 8 weeks. I was working out 7 days a week. I was on a diet like 1,200 calories a day, no cholesterol, nothing. Go back, and at the end of 8 weeks, although I'd lost 8 pounds, pretty typical on a diet, but my cholesterol only came down 20 points. And I was pretty darn scared because now I was doing everything you can possibly do, and it didn't work for me. So a friend of mine who played professional football, actually for the Oakland Raiders, is the one that turned me on to the whole, and it was just emerging. It was just barely starting that the world was now aware that these toxins and herbicides and pesticides and shampoo and toothpaste, they were really doing stuff to us. And he said, do this detox. And so I went on it. I'll never forget it. The short version is I lost like 12 pounds in like a week or two. After about 7 weeks, I had lost a total, I know this sounds crazy, but I lost 40 pounds in 7 weeks, went back to my doctor, and my cholesterol had gone from like 400 to 130, and my heart attack risk from 85 to 15. And I said, if this is real, it's going to change the world. Yeah. I knew nothing about it, to be honest. I didn't even know what a calorie was. I was a finance major in college. I worked from Wall Street. But then I was introduced to the man that had invented this, and he said to me, look, I know I've invented something going to change the world, and I need someone like you to go tell the world about it. And I said, well, I'm really flattered, except I don't know what a calorie is. He said, I'll teach you. So 500 books later, 10,000 hours of research, 2 million miles just on United to fly around the world to meet these world-class experts. And let me clarify something, Mia, for the audience. I'm not the expert, but I became an expert on the experts. So everything I'm going to share with you today, none of it's Peter Greenlaw's opinion. It's based on this hard scientific evidence. And in scientific discovery, one of the first things I learned, you've got to understand the magnitude of a problem before you, A, know if you need a solution, or B, what solution is out there. So that's the path that led me down this, I call it, I'm really neurotically passionate researcher that I can't get enough of it. And the more that I learn, the more I realize what I don't know. And that really drives me, along with the life-changing results I've seen by the discoveries that these incredible people have made. And my job is just to make the world aware of it, okay? My job is not to convince anybody or sell anybody anything. It's just say, look, here's what the science says, and this is what you want to look for if you want to maximize your quality of life potential, which is a lot more than losing weight. It's a lot, it's more energy, less stress. All these other factors that so many of us have we kind of accepted this, what I call less than lifestyle. And I tell people this, I say, look, you have no idea how bad you feel until you realize how good you could feel. So, that's a long story that I condensed in a shorter period of time as I can. So that's how I ended up over now 17 years of research and having done I think I've done over 1,500 lectures all over the world. I did 20 shows on PBS. So obviously people they like what I'm bringing to them, and then they make their own decision.
Mm-hmm. Fabulous. You were talking about the toxins that get into our bodies. It's really interesting. I first learned about that 12 years ago when I was on isogenics the first time. And it was interesting because I didn't realize that these toxins, until I learned it, were being engulfed in fat. And so really we were even looking fatter than we actually are, because the
Right.
toxins add, even though they're dinky and tiny, everything adds out. I do want to say that in 2017, I was diagnosed with microvascular disease in my heart. And I got busy and cleaned up my act, literally. From that moment of walking out of the doctor's office, nothing went on my skin, in my body, that was not 100% pure and organic. And it changed my life. I need to cough here. Hold on, everyone.
Okay.
And it changed my life so much that I don't even have a microvascular disease anymore. I mean, it's crazy, crazy, crazy. And
Wow.
and what I found is that most, even women who are in their 20s, because of parabens, which is in everything on the market, is giving women microvascular disease. It has nothing to do with, for the majority, except for the crap that gets caught in our body. So I love that you talked about that, because firsthand, I know this to be true. And second, it's so important for everybody to understand this.
Well, shameless plug for me, but my second book called The TDOS Syndrome, I actually got a registered trademark with the U.S. Patent Office for the discovery of this new condition that stands for toxicity, nutritional deficiency, being overweight, and stress. And how the four of those come together to undermine any strategy any of us have to overcome that. And here's the thing, 100% of the people in the world have it. You can't, unless you're not breathing, then you don't have a problem at all, right?
Right.
But I'll tell you something even more shocking, the latest research, within the last few months, okay? So you talked about parabens. Well, worse than that, we are all eating the equivalent of one of these per week.
Plastic, right?
They're now finding plastic in raindrops. And the
Yes.
problem with a plastic is something called a phthalate, which is what allows me to bend this credit card without it snapping. And those phthalates, in particular, in women, they massively increase estrogen, which they believe is an underlying factor to breast cancer.
Which is what mine is, yes.
Yeah. They just published a study from 1973 to 2000. The sperm count in men in North America has decreased. You ready for this? By 50%.
Wow.
50%. And they blame it on phthalates. And they blame it on all this plastic that we have in our world. And you're right. And the scientists now, they have a name, which when I started back in 2003, there'd never been a study done on human beings as if we were storing toxins in our fat cells. That was done by Mount Sinai Medical School, late 2005, early 2006. Imagine, before that, there'd never been a study. No one was even looking at it. And now the average adult would have between 1,000 and probably 2,000 chemicals embedded in our fat cells, because our body doesn't know what else to do. It takes the it takes the chemical and stuffs it in a fat cell. And unless you can empower your own body to get rid of that, we keep accumulating. I mean, the current projections are in 15 years, 100% of America is going to be overweight, and 1 in 3 adults will be a diabetic. You talk about a pandemic, it'll make COVID look like you got the common cold.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way we can deal with this. And yet you agree there's more diets, there's more exercise programs, there's more, and it's all hype. And here's the thing, from a scientific standpoint of view, none of them, except the protocols that and not because I recommend them, they have hard clinical evidence, clinical studies, University of Chicago, Illinois, Skidmore College and Arizona State University, proving that this protocol removes toxins from the body. No other diet does. And of course, if you look at the diets, they're all the same. Lose a pound a week. They're just rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. Because in the long run, the latest study, actually Tracy Mann out of UCLA and also University of Minnesota, said the one thing you're guaranteed if you go on a diet in the long run, Mia, you will gain weight. Why? Because our food today is calorically dense and nutritionally bankrupt.
Right.
Which is, again, back to the TDOS syndrome. But it's more than that. It's not just about the nutritional density. It's the quality of the nutrition in the density. So we're used to consuming all these calories and we're never full, right? Because we're
Right.
eating air, basically.
Right.
There's no nutrition. Our body only works on nutrition, period.
Hmm. I do have to say, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about isogenics and how you taught me how to change my shake so that it ferments and all of that. But I do have to agree with Peter here so much, because in the episode with you, Donna, I told you how much I lost 12 years ago when I went on isogenics. And I also want everyone to realize that now that I'm starving cancer, I have these two amazing shakes a day. Plus, I have, Peter said, don't do one meal a day, do 2 meals a day. So I
Yeah.
have what I can eat, which isn't a lot because my tummy now is shrunk. But I have protein and I have my vegetables, and specific vegetables like in the Brussels sprouts family. There's a bunch of different ones: cabbage, asparagus, all of that. And so that's all I eat, and water. All I eat, all I consume. And I'm healthier than I have been in the last 5 years. I walk further, I enjoy more. So there's really a huge, I started this because I was starving cancer so that I could kill it. And I do talk very rough around it. It's like I'm going to kill that thing. And so let's talk a little bit more about, first of all, I'd like to hear it from you, because we heard it from John Gray, we heard it from you, Donna, on how to do this beautiful shake mix. But I'd like to hear it from you and then pick up our conversation from there, so that people understand that this drink, which is a full meal replacement, really does support your entire being. I'm a woman in the last 2 months, and I think that you know this information. I think I told you, Peter. 2 months ago, I went off of all the medical stuff. I was diagnosed a little over 4 months ago with breast cancer, the kind you said, with the high estrogen. And I was supposed to have my breast cut off and all that, and I didn't. And 2 months ago, a little over 2 months ago, I started on just full force on this regime. What Peter's sharing, the LifeWave patches that are coming, the way I'm eating, starving cancer. And in 2 months, I had an ultrasound, and the tumors, the 5+ tumors, were smaller than 50%. I have another one at the beginning of October, an MRI for the breast, and we're going to watch more shrink away. So this does really work, and it can really work fast. What I do want to say is, you have to be a ninja. You have to be a warrior at your own health. Is that correct, Peter? Would you agree?
Yeah, and I want to just caution everyone that we are very conservative, and we're not here to diagnose, treat, or make any medical claims
Right.
whatsoever. Okay, if anything is healing you, it's your own body, and for the first time ever, you're getting massive amounts of really dense nutrition and of the highest quality that we know of on the planet, and your body is responding to that. Okay, now
Very well, she is.
well, what I want to share with people is the fact that my colleague, Dr. Marco Ruggiero, one of the top oncologists in the world and a molecular biologist, who has nothing to do with the company. He has nothing to do with the company that makes these shakes, let's be clear. But he is the one who taught me, that I didn't know about, that he knew about. There was a different way of preparing them. And I think this is really important that people have to understand. See, it's not what we eat or drink, whether it's a shake or broccoli, I don't care what it is, it's what you actually absorb. And the problem is we build up these toxins in the body. It also cuts down on the body's ability to absorb the actual nutrition is there. That's why detoxification is twofold. Yes, it's really the body is removing the toxins. And at the same time as that happens, the cells the nutrition is much more easily absorbed. Okay, so because we don't have a lot of time, I want to go over it kind of quickly. But here's the thing: there's a new measurement. It's called net protein utilization. Something I didn't know. I was an athlete. I tried out for the Olympics in skiing a long time ago, but that doesn't matter. And I went to training camp and eat chicken and steak and turkey and built my muscles. Well, what Dr. Ruggiero taught me was protein, which is essential to human beings. The protein itself is actually a foreign substance to our body. It's called an endogenous protein. Basically, it means it comes from outside the body. Whether it's from an animal or it's from a vegetable, it doesn't matter, okay? But why do we need protein? Because in the protein are the 20 amino acids that the genes use to remake us. To give you an idea, Mia, You will remake the lining of your gut twice this month. You'll remake your liver twice this year. And pretty much you'll remake every single cell in your body once every 7 years. The only way that occurs, not with fats, not with carbs, not with protein, with amino acids. So there's a measurement that was discovered, a scientific measurement about 8 or 9 years ago called net protein utilization, where they took proteins and had people ingest them, and then they tested through stool samples and urine and blood the amount of the amino acids out of 100% of the 20, what was really being used in the body. Well, shockingly, all animal proteins, the maximum absorption is around 30%. The other 70% is actually turned into toxic waste that the kidneys have to deal with.
Mm.
Now, vegetable proteins, depending if it's a single one, like you take a pea protein, the absorption is around 10 or 12%. So if you are doing a non-dairy type, you want to make sure it's got multiple proteins, like a pea protein, maybe a rice protein, chia seeds, whatever. And then when you do that, you can get it up to about 30%. But keep in mind, 30% out of 100. And those 20 amino acids are what our 22,000 genes use to do what? To make the human proteins in us. And this is shocking. We make 22,000 proteins. And the only way we make those is with amino acids. You see why it's so important now? Now let's go one step farther. So my colleague, Dr. Ruggiero, he's one of the, I don't know, maybe 50 in the world that can do this analysis, right? So when we got together, we wrote our book called Your Third Brain, and he pretty much only deals with stage 4 cancer patients. And he was using what's called an undenatured, meaning non-pasteurized whey protein shake from Switzerland with his cancer patients. So when he got together with me and saw the shake that I was taking, he said, wow, that's very interesting. So he went to Whole Foods and Trader Joe's and ordered some online. So he had my shake, the shake from Switzerland, and 18 other shakes, 20 shakes total. The first thing he did, he made them all in cold water and measured them after 5 minutes. Well, again, shocking. Some of the shakes, nationally brands that I won't mention, their absorption was 5%. Mm. The one he had from Switzerland was 12%, and the one I was taking was about 15%. Mm-hmm. Well, then he did something I thought was really strange. He took all 20 shakes and he made them in warm water. Not cold, not chilled, warm. So room temperature above, up to about 100 degrees. He mixed all 20 shakes, took the lids off all 20, let them sit there for 45 minutes and retested them. Well, 19 out of 20 shakes, Mia, the number, if it was 5% or 6% or 8%, didn't change at all. Mm. Except the shake that you're now taking, the one that I take, the one Udana takes. And again, remember, I'm not doing this from an endorsement standpoint of view. I'm doing it from purely science, because when I tell you what the difference is, it'll start to make sense. Mm-hmm. You see, obviously it wasn't the warm water and it wasn't the time, because all 20 shakes were exposed to the same thing. There had to be something else. That something else, right on the label, there are 5 what are called protease enzymes. And protease enzymes, and the reason Dr. Ruggiero knew about this, he'd actually worked with Sir John Vane of England, who won the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 1982 for his work on enzymes. Mm-hmm. When Ruggiero saw those on the label, he knew that they only reacted to time and temperature. And of course, none of the other 19 shakes, including a shake from Switzerland, had those proteases. So to be fair, if someone could find an undenatured whey protein shake with the 5 proteases, they put it in warm water, the same thing would happen. It's just I've never seen another one. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what we're experiencing is this massive infusion of the amino acids, all 20. But here's something more interesting, which may be something that everyone should be concerned about, and that's your immune system. So the immune system, the cell makes this very powerful molecule. It's called glutathione. But that molecule can only be made with 3 of the 20 amino acids called leucine, glycine, and glutamate. And those 3 amino acids must be available for the cells to make glutathione. Mm-hmm. Well, imagine. You can make your shake in cold water and you get 15% of all 20 amino acids, including those 3. Or you can make your shake in warm water and you get 90%. Or when you eat steak and chicken and fish, you get 30%. Mm-hmm. And those amino acids are, that's the only way you can make glutathione. Mm-hmm. And you're going to see a lot of ripoffs there. You're going to see people selling glutathione supplements, etc. Not the same thing. As a matter of fact, in many of the patients with COVID, which I agree with, They're giving them intravenous glutathione. That works. But to take it in a pill form,
Right.
anytime our bodies can make something instead of us taking a supplement, we're light years ahead. Now, I will say that since we started incubating the shakes, we've seen in people that wanted to lose weight, I mean, it's insane. I mean, we have a saying, just give us 4 days. But we've seen people lose as much weight in 4 days as in 8 weeks of diet and exercise. And you know what they say, Mia? My scale's broke. They move it 3 or 4 times and step on it and off it and whatever.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty simple principle.
Mm-hmm.
See, there's not, the magic is in figuring out how can we have very low calories, extremely, not just dense nutrition, but the quality of the nutrition at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
See, one of the other things, not to get too deep into the weeds, that we're so deficient in are minerals.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we've all heard of iron, calcium, magnesium, etc. But there's about 70 that we need. And in studies on organic, they're saying in organic, the most you're going to get is 15 to 20 minerals.
Mm.
So one of the things you want to have in any shake you're going to consume is all 7. Why would you want 20 when you need 70? You know what I'm saying? It's like, I mean, I guess you could drive your car with 1 flat tire, but probably not going to get on the highway.
Right.
So the idea here is nutritional density, empowering our own bodies to do what? Because what else does glutathione do? I skipped over that. It is responsible for supporting our immune system, and it is an incredibly powerful enemy to toxins. It literally goes out into the body, it pulls them apart, it makes them water soluble so they can pass it through our kidney and our liver. That doesn't happen on diets. And the clinical studies prove what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Not sales gimmick, not a testimonial, not a feel-good story. No, hard science. We're removing the toxins from the body along with the 2 layers of fat in which they're stored, the outer layer, which is called adipose fat tissue, and the underlying fat called visceral fat. So this is no joke. This is not some mystery here. The principle is, if you can give your body maximum density nutrition of the highest quality, like you need all 70 minerals. So you could be taking in stuff like organic and you're getting 20 out of 70. Well, that's not what I'm talking about. The quantity is often then also the quality. The reason that this is life-changing is it's basically the most incredibly nutritionally dense, high-quality nutrition that simply supports our body. The body's doing all the work. The body is increasing its immune system. The body's increasing its capability to detox itself. That's what's going on. And like I said, if you read any of my books, I always give people generic recipes because I don't want them to think that I'm trying to convince them. I just say, here's the science. And like my colleague, I mean, I didn't know anything about proteases. Proteases, what's that? Might as well have been an astronaut. But then he explained it to me and I went, oh, wow, that is amazing. And, kind of working with a guy who wins the Nobel Prize in medicine for his work on enzymes, that's good enough for me, okay?
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Now, also, this shake is grown and taken, harvested and all, obviously, if it's grown in the cleanest hemisphere in our world. That's something that I found to be very brilliant, because one, that means that there's less toxins in it, which is the point of doing it that way.
Well, they're organic cows that only eat grass, no corn. They're not injected with antibiotics or growth hormone or any of that kind of stuff at all. And so the quality is there without the bad stuff, et cetera. So you're already starting out with something that's really, really pure. But keep in mind, when you ingest that protein, if you incubate it, and actually the term sauerkraut ferments, this actually incubates. But I'm such a science nerd, I just have to say it the way it is, right? But the point is that process, you're basically drinking pure amino acids.
Mm-hmm.
You're not drinking whey protein anymore. You're not drinking casein protein, which is part of milk, okay? And that's why all I can tell you, I've seen athletes, and again, I've seen them drop their body fat. One in particular, actually, who's Beyonce's trainer, dropped his body fat from 12% to 5% in a little over 14 days and gained 5 pounds of lean muscle. That's why this is not a weight loss program.
Mm-hmm.
Because what did he get rid of? Now, this is a guy who only eats organic, who's in tremendous shape, works out 7 days a week. He didn't believe it was possible.
Mm-hmm.
But his body he still had toxic fat because you can't be alive. You can't be breathing, drinking, eating and not think you're ingesting toxins.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're an alien. Okay, that's great. But if you're a living, breathing, what I call carbon unit, a human being, you're breathing, you're drinking, you're eating this stuff. And see, people don't know this. And diets, it's like they look through the wrong end of the telescope. They're treating the symptom, not the cause.
Mm-hmm.
And the research says in the long run in a diet, you will gain weight. Why? Because you lower the intake of calories. You're lowering the intake already of poor quality nutrition. Guess what your body does? It goes in starvation mode.
Yeah.
You can't, but the worst part is it slows down what's called your basal metabolic rate. That's the rate at which you burn calories when you're sleeping or you're at rest. That's why they gain the weight back, because they go back to like a normal diet. But now the estimates are that they've reduced their ability to burn calories by 25 or 30%, depending on what the diet is.
Yeah. It's totally mind-blowing.
It is.
I love it. Yeah. And I really want people to understand that what we're saying actually is the case. I mean, I found it, I've been on this for 12 years off and on. So I find that it is really remarkable that I am strong. My immunity's rebuilding. Everything is just really incredible. And so, of course, I'm a believer because it works for me.
Well, yeah, and I'm not trying to convince you, as you know. I'm
Right.
just saying
And
this is what the science says and backed up by clinical studies. So again, not my opinion, not hype, not a sales gimmick. I'm just and compared to any other diets that they tested. And in the Skidmore study, what was unbelievable, people lost in this control group against diets, they lost about 25 pounds. But for the first time in 30 years, what happened is, on average, they increased their lean muscle mass, despite losing 25 pounds, by 10%. Every person. They've never seen that before in doing diet analysis over the last 30 years.
yeah. So when I said before about how this has changed my life, and you said, we have to be really careful here. We do. And this is why I'm saying this has worked for me, these things that I'm sharing with you all in these shows. And people have a choice to either be really hardcore with their stuff and do what they're going to do to heal themselves and watch the healing or then get medical, whatever. Do not do nothing. Do not do what I say because it works for me. You have to be on your stuff. You have to feel it in order to do it. But I do recommend the Isogenics system because it really is powerful. Now, I want to say that doctors only have 23.9% or 23.9 hours of nutrition. So any doctor, which doctors do say, oh, that doesn't matter. I want you to know that that's my number one hack here is your nutrition is the most important thing. Medicine is food. And so when we eat right and we eat clean and we clear out our bodies, we are a different person. We're a different being. So that's really vitally important for people to
What I like to say from a compliance standpoint, this is not in place of or a substitute for sound medical advice. I've worked with many people, post-cancer, where they just want to feel better. They want more energy. So maybe they've been through chemo. Maybe
it's
they've been through
conjunct with it. Yes.
in conjunction with, not as a replacement for. I mean, I think people need to understand that. But also, when you're talking about someone at the level of a Dr. Ruggiero, who did this analysis only because guess what? He gives to his cancer patients these shakes, because obviously 90% versus 12% absorption amino acids, that's just a really, really great thing. And I think that, people just need to look. I made the shakes in cold water for 15 years before, Dr. Ruggiero taught me this, and it really did save my life. So I'm not saying if you still want to make it in cold water, go for it, but just know you're getting 15% absorption instead of 90%. And I didn't do that well in math, but I think 90% is like 6 times more than 15%.
Yeah.
I'm being silly, but you know what I'm saying, right?
I do. And it's so vital for us to feed our beautiful bodies what they need to be fed. So we're almost out of time. Is there anything that you'd like to share with us that you haven't before we say goodbye?
Yeah, I really do think that, that I really think the game has changed now. I really think that the fast food microwave era, people might want to take a pause and really begin to realize that the real miracle for all of us is our own bodies, okay? And if you can figure out a way to give it what used to be in food, you're probably just going to feel better, have more energy, you're going to lose weight, your mental acuity will be better, all of those kind of things, let alone supporting your immune system. And in the world we live in today, why would anyone not want to do everything possible to support their immune system?
Right.
You know, this has been a huge wake-up call for the world, okay? And you know, who knows what's going to happen, but I know one thing at least. I'm not saying it would prevent it, I'm not saying it would cure it. I just think, just, you know, 365 days a year. I mean, I've been doing this for 17 years. I've never had a cold, okay? I mean, so something's working, right?
Yeah.
And I have so many other people that have said the same thing. So again, the concept is the difference between our typical food today is calorically dense and nutritionally bankrupt. What we're talking about here is nutritionally dense, highest quality nutrition, because it's not just a question of the density, it's a question of the quality. Because you could have it dense and you only get 15 minerals out of 70, that ain't working. So those two things together can absolutely impact your lives, you know, moving forward. And I know that, you know, people are saying, you know, don't contact me because I'm not the guy, but I know that you do have a site where people can go if they want more information about their own personal journey, what they're trying to look for, whether they want to lose weight, they want more energy, they want to feel better, they want to just boost their immune system. I think that's a really important point, and I believe that I don't have that information. I think you do.
Dana, is taking them on that side if they're in, you know, if they want more.
Fabulous,
Yeah.
fabulous. Well,
We're all a
it's
team here to work
been
together.
wonderful. Thank you so much. It's amazing how I've done so many of these. It's amazing how time flies, and I feel like I just scratched the surface, you know.
You did, but we love it. There is so much more for you to share. Thank you so much. And we'll probably have you on the next season of Health and Beauty.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It was
Well,
lovely to have
I'm
you.
here to help if I can. Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
thank you everyone for joining us. We'll see you in another episode of Health and Beauty Hacks. Bye.